David, I have a question for you.
Yeah, shoot.
Trey said he put beer grease in his beard this morning.
He did not say he put beer grease.
Bear
Beer
grease.
beer grease was not. It was
Bear
bear.
grease. Sorry, I misspoke.
Right.
Bear grease in his beard this morning. Do you put
He didn't
bear
put
grease?
anything in his beer. It sounds like you're saying beer grease in his beer this morning.
You're making me nervous.
Which is a terrible way to start this interview. I'm sorry for all our listeners, and I'm sorry for you, Trey, that Stuart is
Trey's
ruining
making me nervous.
the intro.
I'm nervous about today's interview.
To be
He
fair,
put
there's probably beer.
bear grease in
Bear
his
grease
beard.
in his
And he
beard.
said that he killed this bear. He literally killed a bear with his bare hands. This is why you want to listen. He killed a bear with his bare hands.
Moving into fiction territory.
With his B-A-R-E hands. And
Right.
then he literally wrung the grease with his bare manly hands out of the bear like you would a rag. He treated it like a rag, wrung bear grease out, and then immediately applied it to his beard. That's what I heard.
Well, yeah, that most of that is false.
That's what I heard.
Did I say it? Yes, I did, in jest. And to be a peacemaker, Stu, I probably do have beer remnants in my beard too. If they were to, if CSI,
a forensic analyst.
If they were to come check it out, there's going to be a whole kind of environment in there, I'm sure.
When you started
I don't
growing
know if we want to get into the details of the remnants of what exists in your beard.
Trey's beard.
Yeah. This is a PG program, right?
Yeah.
We keep it. Let's keep it PG. Let's all reset. Let's reset.
So welcome to Filling The Storehouse podcast. We have a good friend of ours on today. His name is Trey Hargrove, or some people call him Sixer. Can you give us the backstory about where Sixer came from, Trey, if you could?
Right. Well, we all come from the prestigious United States Naval Academy.
That's right. Class of 02.
Right. So you would think that things are done there in a way that are very precise.
Just like this podcast, just like our business, very precise.
Right. Well,
smells of excellence. All those things smell of excellence.
That's right.
Throw that out there.
Right. So we get there, and for the first part of it, it's plebe summer, and all you're really worried about is keeping your head on the swivel and, saying what you're supposed to say and not getting yelled at. But then classes start and you start getting computers and emails and all this other kind of stuff. Well, when that first came out, my real first name is Hayward, Hayward. And when all that came out, instead of H, they had the number 6 in place of the
good.
H. So my name officially for all 4 years at the Naval Academy was 6 Hayward Hargrove. And it was funny because like every new class, every new semester, I'd always get that from the teacher. And is this 6 Hayward? Is
6
it
Hayward?
6 Hayward? Or were your parents hippies? What's going on? I'm like, no, it's Hayward, and I go by Trey. So it just kind of stuck.
This fine institution actually has nothing to do with my parents. This all started here.
No. I remember like our senior year, like walking to one of those buildings, you like never go in and saying like, hey, please don't put 6 Hayward on my diploma. Like my name is Hayward. And they knocked it out of the park on that one. They got that one right there at the end.
Well done, Naval Academy.
Yeah.
Well done.
Yeah. So anyway, that's, all my buddies, all my baseball buddies, it kind of started there, 6 Hayward, and still to this day, I mean, I have buddies now in Louisiana that one of my Navy buddies has met them, and that person has called me Sixer. So now people down here who have zero affiliation with the Navy call me Sixer.
That's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That is so awesome, dude. I love that.
Awesome.
It's funny. I did not know that story. I had no context, but I do remember calling you 6 Hayward. I never went to the 6 because I was more formal. So I liked the the 6 Hayward, the full name because I respect
formality.
You.
Yeah.
Because I respect you. You know what I mean? And so that's so funny. I did not know that was the context to that.
Yeah. I wish it was, a little cooler, and I kind of tell people, funny, hey, Sixers always got your back, but I had a little help from the Naval Academy. Maybe they knew that was coming.
Maybe they knew that was the situation.
Yeah.
That you would
Right.
live up to the role of having somebody 6. I like that.
Right. True.
But wait, but I don't want to let this moment pass though.
Right.
Because there was a time at the Naval Academy where both of you had a very, very beautiful, wonderful opportunity to have my 6. And what I remember is that you guys disappeared.
We're going there
in less than 6 seconds flat. I remember that.
We're 6 minutes in.
No,
we're 6 minutes
we don't
into
have
the podcast.
That's right.
6 minutes in. We're talking about this number 6. It took less than 6 seconds for you guys to, and then probably 6 other dudes, you 2 and 6 other, probably about 8 total.
Well, I'll tell you the truth of what happened is, like, I went to Stu and I was like, Stu, we got to come clean. We got to go stand restriction with our brothers. And Stu threatened me. He backed me into a corner and he said, if you open your mouth, I'm taking you downtown. And, I was scared.
I'm going to close it for you.
I was scared. So I kind of, from that point, I kind of backed away. I mean, that's how I remember it.
I don't quite remember it that way.
Yeah, no, it's being funny.
That's good. Well, Stu does have that. He does have that presence. There's been times when I didn't want to, submit some tax paperwork or potentially sign some things for the business, and he literally hemmed me up in the corner and was like, "Look,
that's right, dude,
I will shut your mouth permanently." Mm-hmm. And I was like, "Dang, dude, I just have to sign a piece of paper, right, or hit send on an email. Like, this is where we're at." And he was like, "Do it."
Yeah.
Okay.
Fierce.
Roger that.
Fierce. Like a Wolverine. Fierce.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right. Now that we're done messing around, we can hit the record button and talk some serious talk now. You guys ready?
Okay.
David, Trey and I talked beforehand. He gave me a call. We have a plan in place for what this podcast is all going to be about. You just sit back and relax. You're along for the ride. Just go with the flow. Don't worry about it. We got it handled. Is that cool?
Yeah, here's the thing. I actually feel relieved that I didn't actually have to write every single question that you're going to say out this time. So you actually prepared beforehand. So I actually
I prepared zero.
Feel very grateful. I'm full of gratitude to you, Trey, that I did not have to. It's like a puppet. This podcast is like a puppet, and I gotta stick my hand and move his mouth. If anything good's going to come out. So I'm glad that you guys prepared. Thank you.
I understand. And we all know each other well enough to where, we're not going to run out of things to talk about. So I'm not worried about that. I'm
worried when the hour comes up that we may not have started talking about anything
we have
that we really
nothing of
substance. Right. Yeah. Your listeners are going to be like, thanks for that. I wish I had that hour back.
Well, Trey, dude, for our listeners, let's get into it a little bit, man. Tell us a little bit about just besides, your name 6A word. Give us a little bit of background about who you are and what you're doing now.
Yeah, well, I come from North Carolina originally. My family lives there. My dad, my mom, and my older sister still live there. So I have 2 sisters. One in North Carolina, one in Baton Rouge. Graduated high school there, went to the Naval Academy with you guys. We actually were in sister companies, right? So on day one, when everyone busted out of the rooms and started yelling at us, we were all in the same hall together, right? So that was awesome. Yeah, played baseball at school with Stu and a bunch of other really good friends. Knew Dave from the beginning. We did some of our summer tours and stuff like that together. Had fun with that. Quickly, flight school out of that. Selected helos out of flight school. Did 12 years active duty. Stayed in the reserves after that. In that process, found my career with State Farm. I'm a State Farm agent, so I live in Lafayette, Louisiana now, and I'm married to the love of my life. It's Christine Hargrove, and have 3 awesome kids: Hank 9, August 6, and Shepherd 4. And I have a dog. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah. What'd I miss?
Well, let's talk. A lot of our listeners on this podcast are military. A lot of
Right.
veterans. A big topic of discussion on our podcast is transition, because honestly, it's hard.
Right.
And we've had our own challenges. There's others that have had different challenges, but I think there are all stages where we don't get it right. And you and I, you're a part of the Storehouse Mastermind. There's a lot of deep discussions in those kind of close quarter conversations. We get vulnerable, and you and I were talking ahead of time. We didn't include David in that conversation because he would have just derailed it.
Right.
But I'm curious about how you had planned on that transition from not only active duty to the reserves, but just moving into the civilian world, and what that really looked like, and what you got right, and then more so what you got wrong. So I'd like to dive into that a little bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah. And let me think of a good place to start. It probably started with kind of this decision, like what I knew in my heart, as far as like I was ready to move on and to get out. And my wife and I, made that decision together, and the decision was, to move back, closer to home. Loved my time in the military, loved the servicemen and women that I served with, did a lot of things in the military that I was really proud of, but it was more of a gut instinct that it was kind of time for me to move on. The first mistake that I made was like just trying to, all right, here are my qualifications. Let me go to job boards and headhunters and just, where can I find a job that will work? And there wasn't, I was spinning my wheels with that. Right. And it wasn't until I kind of decided what I was looking to get out of a job to where I really had any progress. I, I wanted to own my own business. I wanted to be, a business owner. I wanted to lead, a team, the way that I wanted to. It was also really important to me to find a job to where I could help people either directly or indirectly. Right. And so that's kind of where it started, and I found the State Farm opportunity, which was a really good opportunity for me. And once I found it, it felt right, and I kind of locked in on it. Right. So I think a lot of us make this mistake too. Is like, as soon as we lock in on something, it's like, I go into the sprinter's blocks and it's like, let's go. Right. So
It's on.
it's on, let's go.
Yep.
So even on my last deployment, I was doing some preparation, studying for some exams, like during downtime. Came back from that last deployment, I was getting off active duty. I had already sent my wife and Hank to Louisiana. And I literally, when I got back from that last deployment, I drove from San Diego to Lafayette, Louisiana. And the next Monday, I think, took my first exam, my property and casualty exam. And then like a couple of days after that, like started work. Right. I think I was so afraid of falling behind. Right. Like, I cannot mess up this transition. Right. I can will myself to success as fast as possible. And I'm the only person that can do that. Right. Kind of a deal. And I probably should have took, some time. Right. I wasn't really communicating with, like a group like we have here, like with Storehouse. I mean, I had friends that I kind of talked to, but the responsibility of what I needed to accomplish was great, and it was something that I took very seriously, and I was not going to fail. So like that was kind of my mentality, and that led to several years of grinding and probably putting not probably definitely putting some of the things that I say are my priorities, my faith, my family, my friends, things like that. They they were not. My responsibility and my work was my priority, because that's what my actions said was my priority, right? And that was what I did. If I could do it over, I would do it differently. I think I needed some time to process transitioning out of the military a little bit more. Using some of those resources would have been very beneficial for me. I think everybody, no matter how long you've been in the military, when you get out, you need help unpacking that. You need help unpacking your bag a little bit, right? And I just kind of put my bag in a corner and picked up another bag, right? So that's probably a pretty good start to my transition.
Yeah, I love how you said that. I put my bag in a corner and just picked up another bag, because something that we talk about quite a bit is really taking the time to transition, right? Given the time that is that it deserves and that it's due, and what that looks like. And that leaves my question. I'm kind of curious what that process looked like, because what I hear you saying is that you actually spent some time to identify the things that you wanted to do, that you wanted to step into, the things that were important, like serving others. And I'm curious. I had a conversation with a young officer the other day that's moving out here. And I said, hey, man, I want to be a resource for you. You don't know me. I don't know you. Someone else connected us. And I said, but what I would highly encourage you to do, unsolicited advice, is take a little time for you and ask yourself these types of questions. What do I want to do? And ultimately, even if when you transition out here, if it's just make money, just name it, right? Just name it, because that at least gives you a better starting point than just kind of jumping into something and then not even having any direction. So all that being said, I'm curious, with the context of that conversation fresh in my mind, I'm curious what you, like, no kidding, what did you do to get to that point, to get to the point where, wow, I want to serve I want to serve others. I want to do this, because you took a lot of action. And so I don't want to minimize the good that you did in your transition. Yeah, you might have put that bag aside, but you did a lot of things. You were studying for something very specific. You took tests as soon as you got back for something very specific. And that is the thing that you're continuing to do today. Most of us study lots of things, do lots of tests, and end up not doing anything with any of those things.
Right.
And I think that's time and capacity wasted. So help me understand what someone can do practically to, no kidding, become a little more self-aware and at least move in the right direction for where they want to be in the future.
Right. Well, I think for me specifically, I looked at that specific time, or that window of time of, okay, here I have an opportunity, really almost for the first time in my life, to really make my own decision, right? To really be free and clear to make my own decision. Yes, I had made other decisions in the past, but you graduate high school, you go to the Naval Academy, you get orders, and that was wonderful. But for the first time in my life, I really wanted to take the time to at least to try to identify that. I think the danger that a lot of people in my situation got into is, I did 12 years active duty. So by getting out at that time, right, I take away a lot of security. I take away, the paycheck, the possible pension, all that other kind of stuff. And I think what a lot of people do, and I was even tempted to kind of do this, was you leave one type of security and you seek out another type of security, right? And do you have the courage in that time in between that to bet on yourself and to say, like, no, I am going to go kind of create something, right? So I knew I wanted that. I knew I didn't want to leave a government type job and go into another type of job that was similar. Like, I needed a little bit more room. I needed a little bit more freedom there for that.
Well, and you make a really good point. I'm reading this book called Hero on a Mission right now by a guy named Donald Miller, and it's a really interesting. He refers to Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl quite a bit, and a hero is someone that finds meaning in their life, and there can be different stages of meaning. There are different journeys that we're all on, and when one journey ends, you have to start another journey.
Mhm.
If you don't start that journey, you're going to go into what he calls an existential vacuum. And that's where I think the danger is that a lot of these military veteran guys get into. We've been on this journey in the military, and like you said, most of the decisions are made for you, right? You show up to college, you get orders, they tell you where to go, you show up to a command, you have your friends kind of handed to you, like, right, here's your squad mates, here's your squadron,
Right.
here's your social events, here's your calendar, here's your meetings, here's your deployments, live in this location, right? All this stuff is handed to you, but you do have a mission, right? You have a mission to serve our country,
Mm-hmm.
and you're doing it together with other people, and there's going to be challenges. And those are all factors in having a mission and being on a journey and having meaning. When that ends, if you haven't thought about what you're doing next, that's a problem.
Right.
And I think a lot of people get into that. If you don't have what you've kind of thought through and stated, and like, I want to serve people, I want to be on a team, I want to be my own businessman, like I want to own my own company, like all these things, like you did that, and now you're on a new journey. So you went from old journey of military mission to new journey of being, owning your own business, and you're finding meaning in that. You're serving and you're leading and you're helping people. And that's awesome. But again, I don't think a lot of people do that. I don't think people take the time to sit down and really realize that you have to start a new mission.
Yeah, and I think practical advice too, and kind of tying back into David's last question too, is it's okay to start the conversation early, right?
Totally.
It's okay, it's okay. Like that whole process with my wife and I lasted over a year, right?
Yeah.
And it started with a hypothetical, because I think a lot of things are left unsaid. It's like, hey, if I bring it up, like, is my wife going to start to worry? Okay, what are we going to do for money? Like, where are we going to go? Where are we going to move? Like, it doesn't have to be negative. It could start with, well, and then you finally get to the point where it's like, well, what do you really want? And what do we really want? And I don't think you can go wrong whatever decision you make. And my wife really helped me with this. Like, we communicated really good with it, but I don't think you can go wrong with whatever decision that you make if you're making that decision for someone that you love, or your family, right? Because I just believe that if you make those type of decisions, you're always going to fall on your feet, and you're always going to have the best chance for success if you're making those types of decisions.
Yeah, that's awesome, Trey. And I think what's interesting is there's a level of self-awareness also that you apply to make those types of decisions, right? I was talking to my wife this morning about she's running a something similar to what we're doing in the Storehouse Mastermind, but she's doing a women's focused one, and it's a different timelines, but similar, very similar. And one of the conclusions that we came to as we were discussing this morning is it's just what's most impactful to a lot of these conversations is not that her as a coach doesn't have the answers for any woman, right? She can't tell them what their purpose is or why they're going to do, why they should do what they should do. But you can ask hard questions, and to those women's credit, and to the men in the mastermind's credit, they show up and they're willing to ask and answer these deep questions for themselves to get to the place where the answer is something that is right. And what I've seen, and kind of what you guys are also talking about, I'm just going to be completely real. What I have seen a lot of transitioning military members, and these are senior military officers, right? That have been very successful in their careers. And it's like a deer in the headlights look. And it's not even military transition. We are this could be anything. We are always in a constant state of transition. We should be if we're growing, right? Unless you're completely content in one place, which is fine, but you should then that capacity should be growing somewhere else. I think. And so, it's ultimately just asking these and answering these questions and being secure enough, even in your relationship, to be like, hey, wife, husband, I don't know. That's a great place to start. And then you could take action from it, right? I was talking to a young guy yesterday. This kid, 20, I say kid, he's a grown man, 25 years old, a professional, and he's just driving and he has this vision. He's about to get married. And he's like, man, a lot of my peers are like, dude, why would you buy a multifamily, like, a fourplex and I'm like, dude, why wouldn't you? You should be teaching these guys to make different decisions, to be more aware. And the thing I said to him, in which I'm curious for you, I said, look, dude, you essentially experienced a midlife crisis at 19 because you're wrestling with identity, and now you're on a path, and there's a great chance you won't experience that again. And that's a beautiful thing. You should thank God for that.
Right.
Because where I'm at, we're looking at some of our buddies, and you lose your family because you want to go drive a sports car and date a younger woman or whatever. And it's just identity piece. So now that you made that decision and you transitioned successfully, you're running your business. I'm curious, you're doing other things, you're vulnerable, you're becoming more self-aware at this stage of your life. How does that now benefit your current state as a husband, as a father, and as a business owner? I don't want to leave out friend, as a husband, father, friend, and business owner. How does this journey, how does it continue to look and refine as you get older?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that probably, recently I have, Stu, you've asked great questions too.
Thanks, man. Appreciate that.
Actually, I think the score is 2-1 Stu to Dave, just to be clear.
Thanks for
Yeah.
I'm glad you're keeping score.
Sure.
Yeah.
But if you're keeping score and his questions were that good, do you remember what they were? Or are you just throwing out numbers?
I do. I wrote them down, but for sake of time, I'll continue answering this one.
Yeah, no, that's great.
So, I think we really kind of settle into who we are, our true self, when we are like kind of like either force or make the decision to really work on ourselves, right? And I think up to this point, recently in the last maybe couple years, I've been able to get by on ability and want to and grit, and I have just made things happen. And I think I'm getting to the point now, after being married and after having kids, to where I've had to make some decisions about the type of person that I really want to be, and back to the conversation about the priorities, my faith, my family, and stuff like that. Like, now I'm not just saying it, I want it, right? I want that. And I've had to do some tough work on myself. That bag that I talked about putting in the corner, I've been working on unpacking that, having groups like you guys, and, talking to people who know what they're talking about when it comes to that, like having those types of conversations and identifying, who I want to be, right? And, the stuff that we've worked on, some of the core value type things. It's my situational awareness about who I am, one, and who I want to be, like, is better than it's ever been, right? And because of that, the meaning intertwined with, my family, my friends, my business, and all that is better than it's ever been, right? But I think I finally took the time to do what I needed to do, years ago. So
yeah, I love that, man. Me too, right? Like,
yeah.
I'm there too, and I think and David and I have gone through a lot of self-discovery within the past couple of years of that same thing. I think I think a lot of us, specifically men, get into this funk of like just thinking the only thing that we have to do is just provide, right? And provide, provides a very vague word, but I think we all have this mindset of providing in the way of just like making money, right? Providing roof over our family's heads, providing meals, providing, all that kind of stuff. And it all comes down to just job and building wealth. And I think one of the things that we tend to lose focus on is providing time. At least it was for me. I got into this stage of just build, grow, create, more wealth, more income, more properties, more business, more. And if you keep on doing that, you're going to wake up at age 60 and, you have all this stuff, but nobody to share it with, right? Your kids are gone. They're older. They're gone. Your wife and you have no relationship anymore. And I'm curious, like, for you, what was that? Was there like a moment? Was there kind of a light bulb? Was there a aha? Was there something that said, oh man, I say that these are all my priorities, but my actions aren't revealing that? And what was it for you, that kind of, hit you in the side of the face and be, dude, wake up?
Well, I think one of the things that helped me most kind of directly was maybe some of the calls that we've had, and talking about, in realizing that, hey, I'm not any different, than anyone else. These are all things that people are struggling with, and then kind of take an inventory of, where I am, and to your point about, the business and that responsibility, and I need to continue to improve on this, and I know I could do that better, or maybe if I just come in a little early and stay a little late, next month's numbers will be a little bit better, like, and then backing that up to, hey, I need to spend some time working on myself. I need to have that that time to where I work on myself, and then once I do that, I need to start implementing those changes, and they don't have to be monumental, right? But just small changes that are going to have that lasting effect. People are, we all are. We're so naive. It's like, I'm going to go get in shape. Let's go. I'm going to go work out for 3 hours. Wait a minute. I'm not going to do that again. It's like,
Yeah.
you got to have to, like, be real with yourself. Like, I think that's a great place to start, is be real with yourself about who you are. Not like, people don't have that conversation. They skip right to what I want to be, right? And they don't identify who they really are, good and bad, right? And then start taking those steps. The stuff that I'd close myself off to. I mean, like, Stu, like, we've known each other for forever.
Yeah.
We were immediate friends, at school, played ball together, all that stuff. Dave, you too. I mean, y'all were right down the hall from me. Like, y'all are the type of people that I needed to be touching base with, like, monthly.
Yeah.
And then I got to a point in my life where we didn't talk for like 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck, and so,
Do you think that's unusual, or do you think that's the norm?
I think it's the norm. I do. I mean, you have like your small group of friends, like, that you touch base with, but I know that I wasn't the only one doing that, because I know you were doing that, and I know other guys too. It's like, all right, here I am. They finally let me out of the fish tank. Now I gotta find safety. I gotta find food. I gotta find, protection, like all this stuff, and you just go in this hole. I mean, I wasn't communicating. I wasn't talking to my friends. I have friends, and I was doing things, but someone like you guys, like, how does that go away? I mean, the only reason that goes away is because we've made something else a priority, and we're panicking because, we think that we have to put 100% of what we have into that, or else all, it's all going to come crumbling down. Right. So
if do that for me, a lot of it was faith, i.e. not having faith,
mhm,
right? I.e. thinking that all had to be on me.
right.
Like whatever we eat, I kill, and having zero faith in our God above to
Right.
provide. Because there was a stage where I was just like you, man, hustle, grind, get to work early, stay
Yeah.
late. It's all on me, right? And man, it's a bad
You know,
place to be.
guys looking down on it, just laughing at us. He's
Oh,
just like,
dude,
come on, come on.
come on, man.
You know,
It's like
like,
I got you.
yeah. To your point though, like that surrender moment, like God, just put me where you want me to be. Just I'm giving that control, all this control that I'm trying to grip so hard. I'm giving it back to you. Just put me where you need me. Like, speak through me. Do whatever you need to do. Like, I don't want to do it. I want you to help me with it.
Yeah, and that's scary.
It is scary. It is scary.
Yeah,
Yeah, but I think what's interesting is it gets less and less scary when we talk about from the context of faith, right? We all
Mhm.
here, we love Jesus, and we have our faith is firmly rooted in our Christian beliefs, but even those that are non-believers, and some of those are in the group as well. I think there's an element when you finally surrender from the perspective of I'm not in this alone. Right now, I fully believe if you surrender and that source is an infinite God, like, amen. That's a great place to be. But if it's not for you, and it's a man, I just want to talk to somebody. I just want to have a friend who I can have just a slightly deeper relationship than what I've been cultivating recently. It opens doors that you just don't even realize that you had closed, both to yourself, your own emotions, but to relationships outside of who you are, and maybe your nucleus family or whatever that looks like. And it's so fascinating to me, that you say that, Trey, and some of the differences that are happening after decisions to plug into a group like the Mastermind, right, or a community, really just a community, because I think and more men need to take action here, because at the end of the day, it's like I look at I kind of have a couple friend groups, and I'm looking where I'm spending my time. And one friend group is this blossoming deep, rich group of men that I've grown to love in the Mastermind. And it's because there's no talk about weather and gas prices and these things. We get into the deep issues of the root of who we are, and it changes the dynamic. And then I kind of take some of those conversations to this other neighbors and friend groups, and it's just not, it actually makes them uncomfortable. and,
Mhm.
and I'm like, hey man, this isn't even like, I'm not even scratching the surface of what we talk about in the group. Like, I just want to get a little bit deeper, know you a little bit more, ask some harder
Yeah.
questions. And so you highlighting that, and that was one of the things I was going to ask is, what was it that what advice do you have for men, specifically men, but I mean, for any of our listeners, women as well, what advice do you have to take that step? Like, why did you jump into the Storehouse Mastermind? Does it take a rock bottom moment, or can we be proactive about this and start making decisions that get us into a place that is much more fulfilling? Because ultimately, that we're seeking that purpose, meaning, fulfillment, and to do that alone is silly. You're not really doing that alone, first off, but
Right.
that's an illusion. But how do you pour jet fuel onto that? How did you do that? What made you make that decision?
Well, we all have to start somewhere, and I don't think that, I started to know about it or to listen to it for like a specific reason. I think that I just saw something on, I don't know, Stu's page, Facebook or something like that. It was like, hey, we have this podcast. I'm driving to Memphis every month for drill. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to start rocking these podcasts out to and from, um, drill. And I started to kind of get into it. I saw what you guys were trying to accomplish, and my cup maybe at that moment that was, closer to empty started filling up a little bit, right? And all right, this feels good. I want to have more of these conversations. I want to do this. And I think after a month or so of that, I just called Stu. I straight up out of nowhere, I was
Which
like,
was awesome, by the way.
I'm like, sorry for being the worst friend ever, but I want back in. Like, let me get back in there, big fella. I want back
Yeah.
in, and I think that first call wasn't even like, hey, I want to join anything or do anything. It was just, I just want you back in my life, right?
Yeah.
Kind of a deal. And that things like that, like just not that it's not a forgiveness scenario or anything like this. It was like, man, I'm just sorry that I let you out of my life. Like, I want you back in my life. Like, I know that you're a person that I love, and I know that you love me, and we need each other, right? Like, let's do this. Let's get back together. And then that led to Storehouse, right? Getting in that, and then that is just a consistent thing that fills my cup, right? And I'm going to use that a lot because that's an analogy that helps me. Like, where's my cup? Am I feeling it? Am I doing something to fill my cup, or is my cup been tipped over? But it's something that consistently fills my cup. And back to the point about surrendering and the point that you made about like, hey, we're having these conversations in the Storehouse and they're a certain way. And then I might try to have these conversations, on the periphery or whatever with friends or whatever. I think that these conversations that we have at the Storehouse, every time before we log in, whether we physically do it or think about it or not, we're all surrendering a little bit, right? We're surrendering before we start that call. Like, all right, here's a safe space. Like, I'm going to be vulnerable. I
Dude,
want
that's
to
so
talk to these
good.
guys, like that. So that is it doesn't have to be to like fall on your knees and surrender to God for our ladies and gentlemen that aren't quite there yet. It can be a smaller surrender, but that can have ripple effects too.
Dude, I literally just got like tingles. This is freaking awesome, man. And I tell you what, man, that phone call that one day was something that was much needed for me too, man. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I saw your name come up on caller ID, and I was like, yes. And I just answered it, and it was just like, dude, I need you just as much as you need me in my life. And just that simple step, man, just that simple step of just picking up the phone and calling somebody and reaching out and be like, hey, I'm sorry for being a crappy friend. Right.
Right.
Because I was there too, man. I was in the hole, bag put in the corner, focusing on providing, focusing on more and more and more. And yeah, like there's so many dudes that we were close with that I just failed like big time. Even with David, man, like even in Dave, like roommates for all 4 years, best men in our wedding, David held my daughter shortly after being born. There were periods where we would go a long time without talking to each other. And I think that friendship, that closeness with other men is so, so important. And being in a place where you can get vulnerable and
natural, right? Like
natural.
I believe we were created to be together.
Yeah.
Right. And it's not a David or a Stu or a Trey opinion. Like, you go back in time. I mean, go hunt by yourself. Leave your tribe and go hunt by yourself and see how long you last. See how successful you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're dead, right? You're dead. You hunt by yourself, or you try to, do this thing by yourself. And we're very unique in this modern. I feel like we're actually. There's a lot of ways we're evolving, but there's a lot of ways where we're devolving. We're moving backwards from the things that truly bring us health and comfort and happiness and joy. And comfort's a wrong, scratch that one. If we edited these, I'd edit out comfort, because comfort's not the goal. It's doing these challenging things together, playing, competing, the things we do at the retreats, Dude, I'm telling you, man, like these retreats are so powerful because we're getting back to a base of how I truly believe we were created. And it's just a natural feeling. And it's not that hard. How hard was it, Trey, for you to pick up your phone and find Stu's name, look for the S's, or on my phone, it's a speed dial number, and you just push it and see what happens. Like, it's not hard. And it's going to be a good conversation.
Yeah.
That if you call Stu after 5 years, you're going to have an amazing conversation. And chances are he's going to be freaking stoked. Like he said, to see, oh, Trey's calling me. That's awesome. There's certain guys I talk to all the time. When they call, I still get a hit. I'm like, man, so-and-so's calling me. This is awesome. Heck yeah, I'm gonna answer this phone. And so I didn't mean to jump in there, but I just want to highlight it. It's not an unusual thing. It's getting back to where I believe we were created to be.
Yeah. All great points, Goody. One thing that you can give him a point, Trey. That wasn't really a question, but it was really good comment. So we can give it tied 2-2 now. Is that
tie ball game? Tie ball game.
All right,
yeah.
Cool.
Yep.
One thing that I also wanted to kind of hit on that you were talking about is doing this inner work, doing this work for yourself. I was talking to Crystal, my wife, about this, and she's joining this women's group with the Erica's leading, and they were asking questions, and she didn't really know how to. She's like, what do I do? She says, like, she pours so much into her kids, and she said she pours so much into her family, but she doesn't really ever put any time for herself. Mm-hmm. And I remember, someone saying in one of our podcast interviews about, just the idea of in an airplane and the oxygen mask comes down. Who do you put the oxygen mask on first, right? Put it on yourself. And then you put it on your kids. And we started having this conversation. She's like, yeah, I wouldn't do that. I'd be like, nah, yeah, you would.
Yeah.
But in real, like in life, when we're focused on being parents and being a business owner and all this stuff up, we focus so much on serving others, and that's in our heart, that's in our nature. We're service minded, we're service oriented, we serve others. But at some point, we have to take a step back and be like, if I'm not serving myself, how can I be better and show up and fill that cup up to be the best version of myself so that I can pour into others then?
Yeah.
And so, the question is, what are you doing practically to show up for yourself, to do that inner work, to fill your cup to be the best version so that you can then go pour into others?
I think it's a little bit more lengthy on the front end. I'll just kind of tell you kind of what helped me. I think the mistake that a lot of people make is they're like, all right, I need to do some work on myself. I'm going to start journaling tomorrow, and I'm going to journal for 20 minutes, and I'm going to, I got it. For me, I'm lucky to have, some good friends. And I got a suggestion from a good friend, and I'll get to that, but I think it should start this way. If you really want to change, if you really want to dig deep in and find who you are or what you want to be and work on yourself, it needs to start with some type of inspiration. Like, allow yourself to be inspired by something. Take the time to be inspired, right? That inspiration needs to lead to some type of motivation, right? And then that motivation needs to drive the decision on habits that you want to change. And then if you're able to do that, then things become routine, right? So I think that's a good step for everybody, rather than, because for me, when I was trying to figure all this out, it was like there was just too many things to juggle in the air. I didn't even know where to start, right? So I wanted to start with that's how I started it, getting inspired. And that's through, guys like you, that's through a certain movie, a certain song, a certain, podcast, whatever. Find that inspiration, turn it into motivation. But motivation's fleeting though. Like you can't be motivated 24/7. Use that motivation. That's when you need to put pen to paper and kind of like write some things down. So my kind of inspiration was I had a buddy, I was getting ready to go on a trip, and and I was, stressed, and it was a good time for a trip. He's like, hey man, with all that time you're gonna have, on the plane and out in the woods and all that other kind of stuff, he's like, you should play your movie back. And I'm like, what? Like play your movie back, of your life, and I did that. And that really helped me. That got rid of a lot of these like little things that I was kind of worried about. Like, yeah, you know what? I come from a great family. I got a loving, mother and father. I've got two great sisters. I had some great opportunities. I went to a great school, met great friends, got to play sports, got to fly, got to serve my country, got to marry my wife, got these 3 kids. Like, my movie is pretty awesome, right? So that was my inspiration, and that kind of got me motivated. And then I was like, all right, I'm going to turn that into some actual changes and some habits and some things and decisions that I make. My calendar at work, my that self-reflection, like really taking time to, like, some of the stuff that we've talked about on like core values, like who am I? Like how am I making my decisions every day? So that's kind of how it happened for me. I know that was really verbose and probably went a little bit down a rabbit hole there,
dude,
but
so
that's kind of how I went about it.
Yeah, that was perfect. I think there's, I think there's some very, there's gold nuggets in all these podcasts that we do, and it never comes from us. It always comes from the guests. And I think what you just, just to reframe it slightly, is there's very practical things that we can do that could potentially change our lives forever. And so there, we can think, we can read, we can take all this information in, and we never do anything with it, right? That's why we love in the mastermind the kinetic part of being a kinetic man. It's taking action. And what you just said is very practical. Like just taking the time, take 10 minutes, ideally take an hour, but take, 5 minutes and just play part of the movie back, right? And I'm sure even in those, Viktor Frankl, we mentioned him earlier, there could potentially be some seriously traumatic things. Maybe not everybody came from a great family, or they don't have a great family, or they don't, but there are things that you absolutely, if Viktor Frankl can draw back on the lessons learned during the Holocaust, being in a concentration camp, and pull some very meaningful things from that, from the struggle, I think we all can take some time to play the movie back and pull the good out and pull the gratitudes out, and also pull the things that helped us become who we are. And then that drives us to a future of where we really want to be. So I love that. I've never heard that, play the movie back. I love that. And I'm going to take some time to do it myself. But there's also, let's make this very practical, right? There's been some challenges, and I'll just speak for myself through the mastermind, through this group who's challenged me. So I'm reaching out to find a therapist, right? To do some mental work. Cause you don't get in the gym and someone said it yesterday with meditation. You don't just say, I'm going to start meditating for an hour every day. No, man, you're going to fail. Like it's just like trying to get under the bench 400 pounds and expecting that that's going to, be something you can do. Well, these things are all practical things. So you can see someone, you can see a therapist, do some mental work, get some mindset stuff taken care of, figure out why you react the way you do. You can do 5 minutes of push-ups a day. There's these little things that you can incrementally do, and then they'll just grow, right? They will become habitual, automatic, and then you build on it. But you got to start somewhere. And I love there's probably no better starting point than a reflection and playing that movie back and doing something like that to force yourself into a place of growth and gratitude, right?
Yeah, in a group like ours too, or small friend group, or people that you trust or whatever like that. If you just let those people in a little bit, that helps too. Like I was not able to sit down and create, the plan by myself. Right. And y'all are gonna laugh at me, but I have to do at least one of the things my dad says. But like post turtle, you ever heard of a post turtle?
Yeah.
You don't know a whole lot about that post turtle, but he didn't get on top of that post by himself, right? Like he we all need help getting where we're going. And that was a random thing that a really close friend of mine said to me, like right before I went on a trip. He was like, man, with a time like that, you really just need to take some time to play your movie back and self-reflect. Like that was somebody that I love. That was somebody that I communicate with. That is somebody that cares about me, right? If you can get to that point with some people in your life, you're going to have a better chance, of getting where you want to be. And we're all going to take turns, like I'm going to need it one day, you're going to need it the next day, you're going to need it the next day. So yeah.
Sixer, this has been an awesome conversation, man.
Y'all cut me off, huh?
We're cutting you off. We love you. And
hey, we talk about doing calendar work, and we got to honor our calendars. So now we got to cut you off.
This is true. This is true.
But the best thing is in about 30 minutes from now, we're starting a meeting, and then an hour from that, 2 hours from that, we're going to be back on with you to talk through some to account for some things. And it's going to be great.
Listen, I'm planning on having a really good day. Like I'm warmed up. I got my ankles taped. I've already, like we're good to go. Like this next meeting, watch out.
Watch out.
Nah, I appreciate you guys. Thank y'all for what you do. I know it takes a lot of time and energy and effort, but it's so important, and y'all are so well suited for it, and y'all work together so great. And love you both. Y'all are both very special to me.
For sure, man. Hey, how can people get a hold of you if they want to reach out to you and learn more about that bear grease on your beard?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know if I have like a handle or whatever the kids have these days.
I don't think the kids these days have handles.
Okay. Well,
the Twitters.
I'm happy to give my number out. Sure, 337-852-4433. Give me a call. That's fine.
I love it, man. Love it. Sixer, you're a pretty rad dude, man. Love you. We were so glad you were part of the Storehouse Mastermind. I'm so glad you picked up that phone and called me. And we are changed men because of it. So thank you, brother. Guys and gals, reach out to Trey, Sixer, 6A word, whatever you want to call him. He's an amazing dude. Hey, share this episode. If this was impactful to you, we'd love it if you tell somebody about it. That's the best thing that you can do for us. Let's all go fill the storehouse together.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Trey. All right. Love you, brother. We'll see you soon. And hey, one challenge before we leave: pick up the phone and call a friend. Pick up the phone and call a friend. Do it.
Do it.
All right, boys and girls.
See you.
Bye.
Make it a great day. See you.